the Pharaoh with USAstrojax.com and APClub.net. I'm here to get back to the basics with you and teach you how to do the best vertical orbits possible. Okay, with the debut of the new MX series, I decided I ought to do a couple videos getting back to basics. In other words, helping people learn the basics so they will have no problem learning any of the advanced stuff. Okay, so what I wanted to start today was the most basic move, the vertical orbit. Alright, so the way the vertical orbit that everyone knows and loves goes like this. Okay, you're holding one end ball, you have the other end ball orbiting around the center, or the flow ball, as it is called, in a circular motion like this. The way the ball continues in motion is when the end ball gets out the bottom, with a slight tug of the wrist, you decrease the string length and essentially you bring the ball back up. Okay? So it's just kind of thinking of it, when it gets to the bottom, you're actually pulling the end ball up. Okay? That's the theory behind it. Now, I want to go into some ways people get in trouble with the vertical orbit. Now, granted, the set I'm using is the MX Sport. With this, I have not encountered any problems doing vertical orbits whatsoever. However, let me explain to you some of the problems people might have, especially with the pop. If you get the pop, you will most likely experience this problem. Don't worry, I'll help you out. Okay. First problem people get is when the rotating end ball comes around and hits the string. Sometimes this causes the orbit to break, and then you lose momentum. Let me see if I can get it to do it. Well, you see, with the Sport, yeah. Anyway, what happens is the ball rubs against the string, and the friction of the ball, you see, the MX Sport is actually pretty smooth for an Astrojax ball. It's fairly similar to the Plus. So it'll just simply slide on by, and you shouldn't have too much trouble. But with the Pop and Sport, with the Pop and the VMAX especially with the little screw holes, sometimes it gets caught on the string, and then it breaks the orbit. Let me show you a way to get around this while you're learning. An easy way is to do your orbits like this, where there's two different ways to do orbits. There's one where you kind of keep the center ball fairly stable, and another one is where you do a little more exaggerated circle motion, and you take the center ball kind of around the end ball. So that's one way to get around it. Okay? So that's a good way to start getting around it until you start getting the feel of the orbit. Okay? So then another way to get around snagging the orbit is simply practice. I know we're talking about practice here, but you gotta practice. Okay? So the way you practice getting out of it is you learn how to do small orbits. Okay? Small orbits is when the string length is about this long. Okay? Your timing is a lot quicker as opposed to when your orbits are big, because you're dealing with a shorter string length of the orbiting ball, therefore your velocity is much faster. Therefore, it's going to cause you to pull on the string more regularly at a faster interval. Alright, so now when you continue to practice like that, you're going to snag all the time. So then you're going to have to be patient and learn to play with string length, where you can do a small orbit, then 3 big orbits, and then get back to a couple small, then a few big and small. Okay, just like that. That's a great way to practice your vertical orbits, to where you're able to control the radius of the flow ball with the end ball. Okay? See, another good way is to actually physically shorten the string and learn how to do tiny orbits like this. Alright? Okay. So, that's one thing. Another thing that people encounter is when their orbits start to go in funky circles, kind of like this. They start doing 360s, kind of looks cool, but when you're trying to set something up for a trick, it's not fun, okay? So another thing, this is another reason why practice, just practice. This is what you need to do. Start by going, remember how I showed you earlier, you can do an orbit, here let me get it this way, to where you are controlling the middle ball more than the end ball, okay? What you want to do is you want to keep your middle ball always to one side of the end ball. And while doing this, you want to keep it as straight as possible with your hand. So a good way to practice this is to do this both perpendicular orbits and parallel orbits. Okay, perpendicular is when they're going away or towards your body. Parallel is when they're going in front of your body. Okay, start with perpendicular. That's the easiest way to visually see exactly where your orbit is going. Okay, and then with time, you'll be able to make it to where your orbits will always stay in one plane. One plane, or pretty much one imaginary line of space where it won't cross. Okay? Alright, those are the basics of the vertical orbit. A couple different ways to start. Let me finish on that. A couple different ways to start. The classic way is hold two balls, one in each hand, and then you either toss it, I like to toss it over, and then start it this way, okay? Or you can start it to the left, or to the right, which is what I showed you. Okay, the other way is the bounce. You can start by bounce, bounce, okay? Or like that. There's another way I like to do it, which is the whip snap. So you up, and then you go, you pop it up, pop it down, and it should cause a separation between the end ball and the center ball, and that's that. So alright, that's back to basics on the vertical orbit. I hope all of you are enjoying your new shiny sets of Astrojax you all hopefully got for Christmas. This is the Pharaoh once again, team player with AP Club and USAstrojax.com, wishing you a good night.